Alright, welcome to ETN News. We're looking at the earthquakes, and I'll explain something else while we're here. You can see these earthquakes on the other side of Kilauea, 3.4, 1.1 miles deep. These are still connecting to the slump. We had these come down through here a while back, connecting to the slump. Once you've had an earthquake in that area and it's broke loose, there's no reason to have another earthquake. We got to watch this because of the slump. Still watch. You never know. Okay, now right here, Alaska. It's thinned out a little bit, but it's still backing up. And, not much though. Let me see what I got. Okay, that's right. I had to check something. Alright, Mount Hood still getting activity. And this one is on the other side of Mount St. Helens. Still getting activity, the Lone Valley Caldera. We had this quake down here, 3.3 southwest of Salton City, 1.9 miles deep, and out from Los Angeles, 3.1 southeast of Malibu, California, 0.5 miles deep. And right here we got on the border, next to the border of Missouri and Arkansas, a 2.5 east south of Lead Hill, Arkansas, 1.6 miles deep. Not showing anything else on that over toward the east. Now let's look at something else. 2.5s and greater around the world. And all we see is mostly, which all they show over this way is the 4.2s, I think, and up. Something like that. Sometimes they will, but anyway, 4.5. All of these are 4s down through here. Now over here is the only deep quake, well, here in South America. Let's see what this one is. 79 miles deep. That one is 48. This one's a 4.4. Philippines, 108.1 miles deep. Over here in South America, 4s, all 4s. That's what's odd about what's going on, is all 4s. That one is 112 miles deep. It's 4.8 Chile. But, it's just up through here's 3s. A lot of 3s. Few. But over this way is 4s. Even this one, 4.7, 4.0, and right here you can see on the Mid-Atlantic Ridge up through here, a 5.5, Central Mid-Atlantic Ridge, 6.2 miles deep, and on the other side, almost straight across on Africa. This is a 5.1 on the Carlsberg Ridge, 6.2 miles deep. We're having some odd activity. Now, let me explain something else. I was talking about the Craton on my last update. A lot of people thought I was crazy when I was talking about the anomalies coming across the North America and causing storms. Heat brings storms. And, stuff like that. Well, you can see that it is now. It's doing, it's doing a lot of damage, that anomaly that's coming across the North American plate. And we've watched it, I've showed it several times. There's no way out of it. It's live satellite. Live satellite don't lie. People can, but not the live satellite. You're looking at it. Now, the Craton. We was talking about the Craton being cracked. I mean, maybe get cracked if it keeps it up. And right here, let me look at this, and we'll drop back to, 30 days? Let's zoom in. Oh, a little too far. Alright, 30 days. We got to do this, see what's going on. Okay, 30 days. Craton. Craton up through here. And some of this is on the edge of the Craton, but up here's Craton. And it even goes all the way up to Greenland. The Craton does. Takes some of Greenland. This was an odd quake over this way. But, this is the Craton areas. Now, I explained about if the quake, if the Craton cracked, it would bring all the mountains down. Now, even if you don't believe in the word, you don't believe the Bible and stuff like that, that's up to you. It's your choice. But even if you don't believe that, where it says that there will be a great earthquake at the end times to bring all the mountains down level, the ocean will rise. The ocean waters will take over most of the land. And, all the mountains come down, is what he says. A great earthquake. A great earthquake. Now, what could bring all the mountains down? Now, using common sense now, what could do that? Sure, not the Cascadia. Even if the major had hit, it would only be so many miles each way. Now, fracking. We talked about fracking. Well, people say, well, you can't crack that rock, you can't do this, you can't do that. Let me ask you, what is fracking? And another thing, let me explain this. It's okay for fracking if you don't go too deep and if you don't do damage to the earth. Now, isn't the Craton a solid rock? Well, sure it is. It's solid. How can you crack the Craton by drilling and get the oil? Now, I can agree with gas pockets being in certain spots, but it's a solid rock. How can you crack a solid rock without cracking it? I mean, if it's solid and they drill so far and they pour water down into it to make it crack so they can get steam from under it, that wouldn't be a solid rock now, would it? It would be layers of rock, like a layer of rock, an empty layer with magma to get the steam, the heat. It would be different. I mean, we're using common sense here. Let's forget about the science. Let's use common sense. How would you crack a rock and not crack it all the way through if it's a solid rock? I mean, somebody needs to explain that to me. How could that happen? How can they keep drilling until they crack it? They'll go so many miles deep, and then they'll shoot diagonally through there and go on several thousand feet to make it crack. Well, that's so the crack would be bigger. Go out a little bit further. Now, I'm just puzzled here. How is that crazy and thinking that way when at the end of days there's going to be a great earthquake? What would cause a great earthquake that big to bring all the mountains down? And can you drill into a rock and pour water in it? If you drill into a rock and a hot spot, if you heat a rock and put dirt on top of it and heat that rock under it with a torch, and then you drill into that rock and try to get down to that hot stuff that puts out the steam and stuff so they can get their use it to get their electricity and geothermal. And how can you do that without cracking it? How can anyone think that that's crazy? Coming up with that. You either crack it or you don't. Is it layers? If it's layers, then they could drill down so far and they could get the heat. Well, it plainly tells you, like I showed you last night, I read it to you, I showed it to you, and that's what they said that they do. They crack the rock. How can you crack it without cracking it? Beats me. I just don't get it. How in the world would that happen? I mean, there's no way that could happen. You can't crack it without cracking it. And the magma and stuff is under the rock. So, if I'm wrong about the Craton, if they keep doing that and they keep drilling here and up here and Oklahoma and all the way up through Canada, toward Canada and stuff, and they connected, making weak spots here and here and here in a straight line, if it cracked And I haven't got time to show you and read it to you exactly how thick it is and this and that and how far it goes. You can even see it in Montana. It comes up to the surface. So, you know, just look up the Craton. I've done my research on it. And they say it's stable for anything. Well, not when you're drilling holes through it. It's not making it crack. I'd just like to know, is anyone got an answer to that? How can you crack a rock by drilling into it and it's solid? Now, they say it's solid without going all the way through. You can't just crack the top layer. It's a solid rock, isn't it? No, I just don't get it. I mean, you know, I don't get it, but when it happens, just like the anomalies is starting to happen, you know, causing the problems like we seen a few years ago. It took years to get everyone to understand, but I know a lot of people don't understand, like the Craton. That's the reason I'm trying to explain it to you, to make sure that you understand what I'm talking about. You can't crack something without cracking it. Put a solid rock in your hand and drill a hole through it and crack it. See if it cracks all the way through. I'm talking about a solid rock. Either they're wrong about the Craton being solid and it's got a layer and then it's got an opening and another layer and another opening, or it's solid. It's solid. That's why it's the Craton. Well, I just don't get it sometimes, but, you know, like I said, some people just don't understand, but, you know, if you look at it, the word says there's a great earthquake at the end times. What would cause all the mountains to come down? No earthquake, no Cascadia, no Majorette, nothing like that could cause all the mountains to come down. He didn't say one or two mountains just in your area. He said all the mountains. Everything else has come to pass through the years. You know that's going to come to pass one day. Maybe not in their lifetime, but you got to think. Is the rock thick? Is it solid? Or has it got layers to where they can drill down and get the steam and stuff out of it? Because you have to have magma to get the steam and stuff out of it. I mean, I just don't get that. And I can't get that. It makes no sense to where they drill and not cracking it when they say that they crack it. I mean, they tell you straight out. That's how they get it, is they crack the rock. Well, Craton is one solid rock. How can you crack it and get steam and get down to the magma, to the oil? Now, if there's oil under it and they're getting oil out from under it, how can you get to that oil without going all the way through the rock and causing a crack? Hey, it's just my opinion. I'm just trying to explain something here. It's common sense. You can't crack something without cracking it. That's impossible. If it's a solid rock and they crack it all the way up and it meets from end to end, then, you know, how would it not snap? And you know and I know, with a rock that thick coming all the way up through Canada, down through North America, that thick, and it cracks all the way across. One big jolt, just all at once. You know what it would do. It would level all the mountains. Level. It would be awful. Just because we haven't had one, they say, well, there's only a 9 that could happen. Yeah, maybe out on the Cascadia, 9 or 10 or something, but the only thing that wouldn't bring all the mountains down. Craton's the only thing left. Just use common sense on this. Forget about the science. But we do know it's a solid rock. And you can't crack it without cracking it. And you can't drill down to the steam and get steam or oil out of it. And if you got gas out of it, then that means that there's empty pockets everywhere in the Craton. That would make it even more vulnerable to crack. When it does, it's over. I'm just saying. Common sense. But anyway, maybe not in our lifetime, but one day the continents will crack the Cratons. And when it cracks this Craton, it'll probably react with the other countries and their Cratons to their parts because of the big shake, because it would be more than any 10. I mean, this would be unimaginable. But it's prophesied. Everything else has come to pass. Why would he leave just that out? The Craton is the only thing that could cause that much damage. I don't care where you look, how much you study, the biggest volcano in the world can explode. Even Yellowstone could explode. Did it crack the Craton last time? It exploded? No, because we still have the Craton. It ain't about that. It's what is going to cause the largest quake ever. I mean, ever. I mean, huge. You know, gotta look at it. But I won't mention the Craton no more. I won't, I'll try not to. Try not to talk about it. Try not to mention it because, you know, at times like this, people want to get in their own safe little world and stuff, and they get upset when I bring something out like that. And really, you know, that just put it down as it's nothing. It's just, you know, views or, you know, just lost their mind or something. But you tell me, is it solid or is it not? They say they're cracking it by doing this, cracking it. What do you think? I mean, is it cracked? Are they cracking it, or are they just going under the surface and doing something else? I mean, they have to be getting the oil. They have to be getting the steam. The only way to do that is to go down deep under the rock. That's the only way it can come up. So either it's already got cracks everywhere and they're drilling into the cracks, that means it wouldn't be a solid rock. Or it's got layers and empty spots in the middle, that means it wouldn't be a solid rock. Craton is a solid rock, isn't it? At least I thought it was from my study. Alright, I'll see everyone on the next updates. Everybody stay safe. Watch for large activity.